Do you feel like your mind is chaotic? That your thoughts have changed drastically and suddenly you no longer fit into the life you always had? The things that used to make sense now seem empty. The people around you no longer understand you. Your mind is questioning everything. And do you know what the worst part is? It feels like no one warned you this was going to happen. But you're not losing your mind. You're awakening. And this awakening isn't a fairy tale. It's not something smooth, beautiful, or comfortable. It arrives like a hurricane, destroying everything you thought you knew. It's as if your mind is collapsing, desperately trying to hold on to something familiar. But nothing seems real anymore. The reality you knew, it's shattering. The certainties you had, they now seem like illusions. And inside you, a part is crying for help while another feels like it's about to discover something immense, something that changes everything. Do you feel it? That sense that something inside you is crumbling, but at the same time awakening. This isn't random. It's not a mistake. It's the beginning of something bigger. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening inside your mind and why this change could be the most challenging and liberating moment of your life. Now, before I reveal to you what's really going on with your mind, you need to understand one thing. Spiritual awakening isn't beautiful. It's not a peaceful experience where suddenly everything becomes clear and you feel at peace. Awakening is violent. It destroys your certainties, rips your old beliefs out by the roots, and forces you to face truths you never wanted to see. And this doesn't just happen on the emotional or psychological level. Your very brain is reconfiguring itself. Science already proves that drastic changes in perception alter neural connections. You are literally creating a new mental map. And this process has symptoms that many people don't understand and that make you question your own sanity. Your mind is collapsing because it can no longer operate within the same system it always used. It's like your brain is running old software and suddenly a new system is installed. The old one conflicts, crashes, tries to hold on, but it can no longer exist in the same way. And this shock creates an internal crisis. You begin to realize that everything that once seemed certain is now questionable. And here's the most important point. The more you resist, the more painful it becomes. Awakening pulls you out of your comfort zone because it doesn't want you to keep sleeping. Now, I'm going to show you the 7 deepest and most intense signs that your mind is changing during awakening, and why you need to know this before it's too late. Suddenly, you look at your life, and nothing feels like yours anymore. The things that once defined you now sound strange. Your job, your tastes, even your relationships no longer make sense. You find yourself asking, who am I now? What was once comfortable now feels tight, like you've outgrown this old skin. You try to fit into what you've always done, but something inside you refuses. It's not laziness. It's not discouragement. It's because the old you is dying, and this death isn't easy. It brings confusion, anguish, a feeling that you're losing control. You try to hold on to what you've always known, but nothing feels solid anymore. It's like the ground is cracking, and everything around you is collapsing, and it really is. Because awakening isn't about adding something new, but rather about tearing away everything that isn't real, everything that was imposed, everything you accepted without questioning, everything you built based on fear, the need for approval, or social programming. And when these layers begin to fall away, what's left? The void. That void that scares you. That vacuum where you no longer know what you like, what you want, where to go. It's a mourning because a part of you is leaving. But it's also a rebirth because now you have the chance to build an identity that is truly yours. But before you get there comes the chaos. Your brain is in conflict. It has been trained to operate within a system that is now crumbling. And when the mind loses its references, it panics. It tries to pull you back, tries to make you believe you're losing your sanity. But you're not. What's happening is that you can no longer live a lie. And this shock is brutal, because you start to realize that many of your choices weren't really yours, that your entire life may have been guided by conditioning you never questioned. And now, without that programming, who are you? Don't be surprised if you feel like you've lost your footing. This means you stopped holding on to something that was never yours to begin with. You wake up and feel a weight on your chest. Nothing specific has happened, but the anguish is there. It feels like mourning, a silent farewell to something you can't even name. You try to go through the day as usual, but the sadness persists, as if it is trapped inside you, pulling you to a place you can't understand. And then comes the question that won't leave your mind. What is happening to me? What is happening is that you are dying inside, but not in a physical way, more psychological, emotional, and spiritual. Your old self, the beliefs you've carried for years, the illusions you've held onto, all of this is crumbling. And your brain perceives this before you even rationalize it. It feels the loss before you understand what you've lost. That's why this sadness comes out of nowhere. Because what is dying isn't something visible, but something that's always been inside of you. It's a deep process. You are letting go of the past, even without wanting to. You are releasing what you thought was essential. And the worst part is, at this moment, you don't even know what will come to replace it. This is one of the loneliest moments of awakening, because no one around you seems to notice. You try to explain, but how can you put into words something that you yourself don't understand? How do you say you miss something that you still haven't figured out? Life keeps going on as usual. People continue with their routines, talking about trivial things, complaining about the same old problems. But inside you, everything has changed. You look at the same things you've always seen, but now they seem empty. This sadness that follows you is not weakness, it's not depression in the clinical sense, it's the weight of transition. You are in an existential limbo, caught between who you were and who you need to become. And the hardest part is that this sadness doesn't ask for consolation. It doesn't need someone to cheer you up or distract you. It wants to be felt, because it's clearing the way. If you try to ignore it, it comes back stronger. If you try to escape, it finds you at the most unexpected moments. You might be surrounded by people and suddenly feel a tightness in your chest, as if you were completely alone. You might try to distract yourself, but in the silence, when no one is looking, it returns. And do you know why? Because you need to go through this. This sadness is preparing you for something bigger. It is breaking the invisible chains that kept you tied to what you are no longer. It's the space between the past and the future, where nothing feels familiar and everything is still undefined. But the scariest part of this process is that there is no script. There is no fixed timeline. You don't know when it will end. And that makes it feel endless. What no one tells you about spiritual awakening is that it doesn't bring immediate happiness. It starts with pain. It messes everything up before it organizes. It rips away everything that doesn't serve you before showing you what truly matters. And in this process, mourning is inevitable, because you are not just changing. You are saying goodbye to the old patterns, to the old certainties, to the limited view you had of life, and every goodbye hurts. But this pain is not your enemy. It's what pushes you forward. It's the proof that you're freeing yourself from something that no longer belongs to you. You try to speak, but no one understands. It feels like you're in a movie where everyone follows a script, and you're the only one who realizes something is wrong. The conversations are empty. People's concerns seem small, and everything feels mechanical. You hear the same repeated complaints, the same recycled dramas, the same addictive cycles. But now, you see what you didn't see before. And this perception isolates you, because while others go on autopilot, you feel like you've awakened to something bigger. But this difference places you in a solitary place. You want to share what's happening, but every time you try to explain, you get strange looks. They look at you like you're exaggerating, like it's all in your head, and that hurts. Because it's not just about not being understood. It's about realizing that many of the people who were part of your life aren't on the same journey as you. They are still stuck in what you can no longer pretend is real. They continue following patterns you've already identified as toxic. They keep living in fear, in scarcity, repeating limiting beliefs. And you start to realize something even worse. You used to be like that too. And this realization is a shock. because you realize you spent years immersed in empty conversations, accepting inherited beliefs, repeating behaviors without questioning. And now, having awakened, you feel like you no longer belong in this place. But the problem is, as much as you've changed, the world around you remains the same. This creates a strange feeling, like you're living between two realities. You are here, but you're not. You walk the same streets, see the same people, but everything feels displaced. And the most disturbing part is seeing how others don't notice anything. You watch people defending ideas that were implanted in their minds, watching news that manipulates their emotions, arguing over things that don't matter, engaged in distractions that only keep them busy, and no one questions it. No one asks themselves if there is something beyond this, but you asked yourself, and that's why now you can't go back. You might try to fit in again, follow the conversations like before, pretend nothing has changed, but something inside you refuses. Your words no longer come out the same way. Your interests have changed. Your view on life is no longer the same. And this separation between you and the world you knew hurts. It hurts to realize that friendships become distant, that people who once made sense now seem strange, that your own family might not be able to see you. And then comes the doubt. Am I wrong? Am I exaggerating? But then you remember that it's not you who's asleep. You just woke up to a reality that's always been there, but you couldn't see before. Suddenly, everything that seemed right now seems doubtful. You look at society, at the rules you've always followed, at the values that were taught as absolute truths, and nothing makes sense anymore. The certainties that supported your life are crumbling. What once seemed logical now seems like manipulation. The structures you believed were solid now appear fragile, full of contradictions. And the scariest part, you realize you spent years accepting everything without questioning it. This takes away your footing. You begin to see patterns where you once saw nothing. You start noticing how the world around you operates as a system that keeps people trapped, busy, distracted. And now that you see this, you can't unsee it. But this clarity doesn't come without a price, because this constant questioning takes you into a mental whirlwind. You no longer know what to trust. If everything was a lie, where is the truth? You feel like you've lost your references, as if you're walking in a desert with no direction. And the human mind doesn't deal well with this emptiness. It wants answers. It wants security. But right now, all you have are questions. And that terrifies you. You begin to wonder if you've gone crazy, because while others seem to carry on with their lives as usual, you feel like you're dismantling a puzzle that no one else even realizes exists. You look back and think, was I always deceived? Was everything programmed to make me think a certain way? And this kind of thinking can become dangerous, because when you start seeing the truth, you also begin to realize how much you've been conditioned since childhood. How your mind has been shaped by systems that don't want you to question anything. School taught you to obey, but never to think for yourself. The media sold you fear, but never freedom. Society created a path for you to follow, but never asked you if that path made sense for who you really are. And now that you've awakened, you see how all of this was always there, but no one noticed. And the deeper you go, the more shocking it gets. You remember all the times you ignored your intuition because you were told it was an exaggeration. All the times you accepted rules without ever asking who created them and why. And now, every detail that once seemed insignificant fits into a bigger puzzle. This process can make you paranoid, because when you realize you've been manipulated, the first reaction is to think that everything around you is a trap. You start doubting everything and everyone. But there's an important detail. Just because you've realized the system exists doesn't mean you need to live in war against it. Awakening is not about falling into paranoia. It's about seeing beyond the veil and regaining control of your own mind. You feel extreme fatigue even when sleeping. Your body feels heavier, as if it's carrying something invisible. Small pains appear for no apparent reason. Your head throbs. The pressure rises out of nowhere. A strange tightness in your chest comes and goes. And the worst part, Doctors say everything is normal, but you know it's not. Something is different inside you. Your body is reacting to something your mind is still trying to process. You feel waves of strange energy, chills without explanation, an absurd sensitivity to sounds, lights, and smells. Some foods you've always eaten now make you sick. Your appetite fluctuates between excessive and non-existent. You feel dehydrated all the time, as if you're drying up from the inside. And the strangest thing, your body temperature seems to fluctuate. One moment, you feel an intense heat, as if you're burning from the inside. The next, a cold that chills you to the bone. Your body feels out of sync, as if it's trying to adjust to something you can't see. This is not a coincidence. Your body is literally recalibrating. You are processing information and energies that you didn't perceive before. Your nervous system is overloaded because now you feel more, perceive more. The world has never been so intense. The sounds that didn't bother you before now seem deafening. The lights appear stronger, almost aggressive. Crowded places leave you exhausted. Being near certain people drains your energy. And you ask yourself, what is happening to me? The answer is simple. Your body is awakening along with your mind. But this adaptation is brutal. You might feel sudden dizziness, as if the ground has shifted. Insomnia, even when you're exhausted. Or the opposite, a deep, uncontrollable sleep, as if your body needs to shut down to process something. Your heart races for no reason. You feel vibrations throughout your body, mainly in your hands and feet, like an electric current is passing through you. And the most disturbing part, you feel a presence. You can't explain it, but something has changed in your perception. You feel like you're being watched, not in a threatening way, but as if something or someone is there watching. Over you, time begins to behave strangely. Some moments seem to drag on, while others pass in the blink of an eye. You forget basic things. You open your phone to do something, and seconds later, you no longer remember what it was. And in the midst of all this, there's a strange feeling of not belonging, as if your body is here, but your consciousness is expanding to a place you don't yet understand. You're not sick. You're changing. You look at the clock and realize the minutes pass too quickly or too slowly. Some hours seem eternal, while others disappear in the blink of an eye. Time, which has always been a constant in your life, now seems unpredictable. But the strangest part is that no one else seems to notice this but you. The people around you continue stuck in their routine, living in the same rhythm as always. For them, the days go on as usual. But for you, something has changed. You feel like time is no longer fixed, as if it is dissolving or expanding at specific moments. And then comes the question, what is happening? What's happening is that your perception is transforming. Your brain is no longer operating in the same way. It's breaking out of the linear structure of time that you've always followed. Before, the days seemed well-defined. Morning, afternoon, evening. Now, that division feels artificial. You feel that time isn't a straight line, but something malleable. There are moments when it feels like you're floating between different realities, as if you're living in multiple layers at once. This can leave you confused. You try to remember what you did in the morning, and it feels like it happened days ago. Or, on the contrary, something that happened weeks ago seems like it was yesterday. You forget appointments, lose track of the days of the week, feel like the world is spinning too fast, or that everything is frozen. And this can be frightening, because you've always been taught that time is fixed, an unbreakable sequence. But now you feel that this isn't true, that it can stretch, compress, change rhythm depending on what's happening inside of you. You begin to notice that certain situations make time slow down. An intense conversation, a moment of deep introspection, a spiritual connection experience. In these moments, the seconds seem longer, as if the universe is giving you more space to absorb everything. On the other hand, when you're surrounded by distractions, living on autopilot, time speeds up. You blink, and the day is over. The weeks pass in a breath. The months fly by, and you barely realize that the year is ending. And then comes the shock. Did time always work like this? Or have you just now realized how it really works? You realize that the way you experience time is directly linked to your state of consciousness. When you're present, immersed in the now, it expands. When you're distracted, lost in thoughts, it slips through your fingers. And then you realize something even bigger. Time is not an external force. It is something that happens inside you. Something inside you has changed. You feel it all the time. There's a restlessness, a strange feeling that you need to do something, go somewhere, change completely, but you have no idea what it is. It's like the universe is pulling you in a new direction, but not giving you a map. You feel like there's something important waiting for you, a mission, a purpose, but everything is still cloudy, and this creates an overwhelming anguish. You wake up in the morning and feel a weight on your chest, a silent urgency that you need to act. But act how? Do what? You try to follow your routine, but it feels like something is out of place. The things that used to be normal now seem meaningless. The old goals no longer motivate you. You look at your life and realize you no longer want what once seemed enough. The people around you continue living as they always have, but for you, that's no longer enough. You don't just want to exist, survive, fulfill obligations. You want something bigger, something that truly makes sense. And the most frustrating part, you still don't know what it is. You feel the call, but you don't have clarity on what it means. And this lack of answers makes you restless. It feels like you're waiting for a sign, for a revelation to tell you exactly what to do, but nothing comes. And that's when many give up, because this phase of awakening is unbearable for those who need control, for those who've always lived within a plan. You want an answer now. You want to know your destiny. But awakening doesn't work like that. The call comes before the answer. First, you feel the need for change. Then, everything that no longer belongs to you begins to crumble. Your old identity cracks. Your body reacts. Your perception of time changes. You distance yourself from old influences. And only after going through this chaos do the answers begin to emerge. The problem is, almost no one can handle this gap. The mind goes into despair, trying to fill the emptiness. You begin to consider going back to the old life, just to have a little security. But something inside you won't let you, because deep down, you know there's no turning back. And this is the real challenge, to endure the call without going crazy. To accept the void without rushing, because it's only in the silence, without distractions, that you will begin to understand what you truly need to do. If you've identified with these signs, you need to understand one thing. This is not a mistake. You are not broken. You are awakening. And awakening, no matter how confusing and painful it is not happening for nothing. It's taking you out of an illusion, dismantling everything that wasn't real, so you can see who you truly are. But this transition isn't easy, because while part of you already feels that you need to change, another part is still resisting. Fear tries to pull you back into the comfort of the old life, but something inside you knows you can't pretend anymore. The old path no longer works, but the new one hasn't appeared yet. And it's exactly in this gap that most people give up. Now you have a choice. Fight against this process and continue feeling lost, or accept that your mind is expanding and begin exploring this new reality. There's no going back, and deep down you don't even want to, because even without fully understanding what's happening, you feel that something bigger is waiting for you. And the truth is, there is, but only you can discover what it is. Only you can decide if you will follow this call or remain stuck in a world that no longer makes sense. Today, I've shown you the 7 deepest signs of spiritual awakening and what is happening inside your mind. Now the choice is yours. You can ignore all of this, try to fit into the old life, and pretend nothing has changed. Or you can accept that you are no longer the same person and move forward. Awakening doesn't ask for permission. It comes and transforms everything. But it's up to you to decide what to do with this transformation. And I want to hear from you. Which of these signs have you been feeling most strongly? Do you feel like your identity is crumbling? Does time feel strange? Is your body reacting? Or do you simply feel that something bigger is calling you, but you still don't know what it is? Comment below, "I am awakening," and tell me which of these signs hit you the hardest. I want to know your story. And if this video made sense to you, share it with someone who may be going through this. Because many people think they are going crazy, when in fact, they are awakening. The more people understand this process, the less they will feel alone. Thank you so much for your valuable attention. Your time here was not by chance. You needed to hear this. Now click the video appearing on the screen and continue your journey of personal and spiritual knowledge. There's a lot more you still need to know. I'll see you there.